Happy Tuesday. I got some brownies stuck in my throat. We are going live today with Emmi from Living Emuna, and we're going to talk about her story, which I think is going to be fascinating. Hello, Milka. Thank you for joining. We're just going to wait for Emmi to show up. Hello, Chaya. Hello, Emmi. I see you. Let me just invite you. Hey, Emmi.
Hi.
How's it going? You see me okay? You hear me okay?
Yeah. Hang on a second.
Yeah, your video is like a bit choppy for me, but if you see me okay and I hear you, then I think we're good.
Is it still choppy?
A tiny bit.
I can try to
Say it again.
I can try to leave my Wi-Fi. Hang on, let me see if that will.
Sure.
What about now?
I think that's better. Okay, amazing. So I want to start. I know that we have limited time and you have so much to share. I feel like I told you, I think on WhatsApp, that one word that I feel like depicts you is strength. And I feel like that's a really important word. And I feel like you're people that know you through Instagram, feel that, And I feel like strength is something that could be given over to other people. When people see your strength, they feel stronger and they get some of that strength and you don't lose any. So I wanted to have this conversation because I really think that you can inspire and give strength to so many people. So we're gonna start with your story, whatever you want to share about it. I don't know anything practically other than the tiny bits and pieces. So go for it.
Okay. First of all, thank you, and this is so nice.
Sure.
I guess I'll just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
I got engaged when I was 20. And he was actually my brother's chavrusa, and we didn't date typical shidduchim. I was in shidduchim, but we didn't date shidduchim. And we met across the Shabbos table, we hit it off, and we dated, and then we got engaged, and then we got December of 2020, I think. Okay. Whatever. And then so I had just turned 20, I turned 21 that January.
Wow.
So then we got married, and then right after that, COVID.
Wow. Yeah. I was just gonna say that was right before COVID. That was not a good time for anybody.
Yeah, we missed COVID. Purim was
COVID. Yeah.
It was right before COVID. We really that COVID boat.
Yeah.
And then I got pregnant when I was married for 4 months. And then Erev Pesach of the next year, so I was married for, I had Yona in February, so it was literally, my wedding was December, so it was my 1-year wedding anniversary. Then I had Yona in January, and then March, Pesach was a Friday, Pesach was Friday night. Day he came home and said he didn't want to be married anymore, and it was I was like, what? I'm sorry. I had a C-section, and I was holding our newborn baby, and I'm I don't understand, what does this mean? It was it wasn't, we weren't fighting, it wasn't we were in the middle of a fight. Yeah, it was just, came home and was I don't want to be married. So this was our Pesach, and August, so that was March. August, I got my get. So it took around 6 months to get my get, and then that was it.
So my mouth is open because even if I would have heard the story 10 times, it would be open probably. But
yeah,
this is crazy. I have there's so many question marks everywhere. But oh my god, yeah.
Literally, that's a very good way of putting it. There are so many question marks. People tell me all the time, how do you live without having closure? And it took a very long time to understand that I'm not going to understand it, and that it's not something that I can ever, explain to myself. Once I understood that, once I understood that I'm not going to understand it, it's not going to become clear. That helped.
Yeah, totally. Closure. Yeah, no, I feel like this is such an important like point. This concept of closure, like we're all looking for closure in different parts of our life, or at different times in our life, we have like areas that we want closure from. And I think that sometimes like accepting that you're not going to get closure is the closure that you need, and that is the closure. Like that is your closure. You have to create it for yourself. It doesn't come from the other person.
100%. I really think that like it's not. I've really learned that you can create your own
Yeah.
closure. Like I feel like I'm always searching for these, you know, things that are gonna bring us closure.
Yeah.
And like this is what's gonna give me closure. You know,
Yeah.
I'm that, and he's gonna tell me why he left, and that's gonna give me closure. Like
Exactly.
it's realize that like even if tomorrow he called me up and said I left because XYZ, I'm not gonna have closure from that. Like
Yeah.
okay, so
Exactly.
why? Like so that's why I was put through hell for the last X amount of
Yeah.
years.
Exactly. Exactly.
Closure is really something that you come to on your own, and like
Exactly.
once you reach that state,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, like I can live with this, you know.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
my Instagram used to be like, I had started out, I was working in a clothing store, and it was
Yeah.
styled by, that
Okay.
was like my thing, and I was like personal shopping and
Mm-hmm.
posting my and I kind of took a break during COVID, and I stopped working and whatever. So, and then I had a baby, so it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like I wasn't doing it. And then I started, after I got divorced, I started coming on here and just posting my like
Mm-hmm.
OOTDs. But I was doing it in like reels, like I was like making these little reels of like me standing there in my outfit,
Yeah.
and like I wasn't. It wasn't that I was pretending that everything was fine, because I wasn't. It wasn't like I was public that I was divorced. Like I don't think anyone from looking at my OOTD would know that I was divorced, but I wasn't like necessarily coming out and being like, "Hey guys, I'm so happy," and that. I was
Right.
just posting an outfit and leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like my like sort of segue into like the world without actually having to say anything.
Sure.
Um,
Like an outlet. Yeah. And also like it was a creative expression because you're like you were into like that was what you were doing. Yeah.
exactly. So I felt like, you know, I needed to bring back some sense of normalcy into my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, post my outfits, because
Yeah.
what else? Um, so I also had like Yona was very,
Mm-hmm.
very little. He was like a couple weeks old. So it was like I wasn't really doing anything. I was just sitting at home. So like, all right, why not?
Wow.
So I started posting my outfits, and I don't know, it wasn't like I wasn't putting so much effort into it, but I was like, okay, like maybe this is what I'll do. Like maybe I'll just, instead of, you know, trying to go back to work, I'll start fashion blogging.
Mm-hmm.
But it like pretty quickly became apparent to me that like I'm not that I have any issues with fashion bloggers. They're great, but I'm not personality. Like I felt like I was missing something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just authentic to myself. Like coming on here and showing my outfit and then moving on, like it just was not authentic
Right. It
to my.
wasn't fulfilling also probably. Like
Yeah,
it feels like very empty.
exactly. It just felt very, very empty. And
Yeah.
I'm a very real person. I also felt like I'm going through this divorce, and like I'm coming on here, and anyone who follows me has no idea that I'm divorced. Not that
Right.
they would care, but like they have no idea.
Yeah.
And I'm fake. I just felt like a faker. And I was like, okay, like I'm not. So I stopped. And then Hanukkah, for some reason, like it was my first Hanukkah being divorced,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting there with candles, and I've always related. I'm a very like fire and water kind of
Mm-hmm.
person. Like when I'm struggling, I always go to the water.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm never hate to water. I love fire, and I think like Hanukkah, I'm sitting by the candles, and I'm just reflecting on life, and I was really struggling, and I just came onto my Instagram for some random reason, and I just started, like I do it all the time now,
Yeah.
but like at the time, it was so weird for me. I
Yeah.
came on, basically spoke about how it's hard to be divorced, and it was kind of like my announcement to the world
Yeah.
that I was divorced.
Yeah.
Right? Not the world, but like my whatever 200 followers that I
Yeah.
had. And like, but for me it was very, very therapeutic, and the response that I got was even more, so much love, and like
Yeah.
so, gosh, like this is so real.
Yeah.
And from then I really just started sharing
Caring.
feelings, my thoughts, my day. Like I kind of just started throwing everything on here. I'm like, okay, whatever, like I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And you changed your handle to Living Amuna, which I think
Yeah,
is like
that,
that at that point. Was it at that point?
once I had switched my name to Emmi, like I switched my username to my full name,
Mm-hmm.
and then mom was like, you can't put your name on Instagram, it's not safe, you're gonna be stalked, because like I was public and I
Yeah.
was sharing, and she was like, you can't do this. I'm like, okay, so what, like how can I, and like my name my Hebrew name is Amuna.
Right.
So I was like, how can I, like, what can I do that still has my name? And like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming with my friends, like trying to figure out a good name. And then
Mm-hmm.
living in, I was like, okay, like it's a play on words. Cause like on the one hand, it's my life and I'm sharing all about my life. On the other hand, like my name is Amuna and also Amuna and faith and whatever. So it kind of just like all like
I love
when
it.
it hit.
Yeah, that's perfect. When you told me your name is Emmy, I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the coolest thing. Until then, I didn't even know that your name was like, I didn't know if it was like living Amuna. Amuna was your name.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
I
like a cool
it
handle.
either
Exactly.
way, you know?
Exactly.
So
Very smart. Yeah. So now no one can stalk you. Well, I'm sure though that you have your.
my mom still tells me all the time how I share way too much and how people just dog me. I'm like, whatever.
It's a different generation. They don't understand. Like my mom also can be like that sometimes.
I have to share.
Exactly. So wow, okay, this is like so cool. So like I guess you've been doing your Instagram and sharing your story for the past like year and a half.
Yeah. Like
is that like about right?
last Hanukkah,
Yeah.
it was a very slow, it didn't happen right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like I stopped and then I slowly started sharing, and as sharing, people started commenting and following.
Right.
I was getting a lot of positive feedback and I was like it's not, and like I guess everyone knows Instagram is like a fake place in a sense, you know, and people are like, wow, you're being so real. And I'm like, I'm not being real. I'm just talking about myself.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I feel like, and people are like, oh, you're breaking the stigma. Like I get that all the time. You're breaking stigma. I'm like,
Right.
I'm not trying to.
You're not trying to do that. You're just being yourself. But I feel like you are being real, and I think that that's like such a good like litmus test. Like I think authenticity wins. You know what I'm saying? Like until then, you were just like using it in like you knew it was fake when you were using it for the clothing, but it was like an outlet for you, which there's nothing wrong with. But I think that authenticity will always win the race. You know, like I heard something like if you're authentic, you not necessarily like authenticity doesn't guarantee success, but inauthenticity guarantees failure. You know, so like I thought that that was like so powerful. Again, I'm sure there's like a bunch of times that that rule has been broken, but I think that it's like a very good formula for people to think about. That like when you're authentic, you kind of like people gravitate towards that, and like I feel like yes, from many people that I know on Instagram, like your authenticity shines through. It's like you can't not see it. So like that's incredible.
Yeah.
I want to, yeah.
Gravitate towards, like as you said, but like they gravitate towards authenticity, and like people. I also think like when I'm looking at someone on Instagram and as soon as like you see when something's a play, you know, like someone's like, oh, they're talking about something and it's clear they don't even really like it. Like I'm okay.
Yeah, take it off.
Yeah, like when you're authentic and like it's interesting because someone, oh, like I want to be a blogger. Like I had like a question and answer. She's like, I want to be a blogger. Like, how do I do it? And I was like, first of all, I don't look at myself as a blogger. Like I care, but I don't know that I'm like a blogger. But like just be yourself. Like if you're yourself, people will gravitate towards you just because you're yourself and you believe in what you're doing. Like if you believe in what you're doing, people will believe in you. But if you don't, you're trying to be everybody else, then like
not gonna. It's not gonna cut it. Amazing. Okay, I want to talk about like your support team. Like it sounds like your Instagram has been like a big piece of your support. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that is like definitely a theme over here. But I also want to talk about like your support team outside of Instagram, because I think people that are going through difficult times, divorce, not divorce, difficult marriages, like support team is like a big one. I get so many questions like that. Like I don't have this, that, and the other.
So yeah, I thank God I'm so blessed. I moved right in with my parents. Like the day that he left, I came home and I never left.
Wow.
And I really am. I'm really lucky, and it's not something I take for granted.
Yeah.
Because and I say like I wouldn't be able to do it if I wasn't here. And like I have told myself, like I have to tell myself, like that's not true. Like if you weren't here, you'll do it, but it wouldn't have been as easy. Not that it's easy, but like easy, you know. But I really have an incredible family, and my siblings and my friends like really have been there. I don't know that it like it's hard to tell. It's hard to say that it would have been harder without it, because I always try to say like I can't speak for an experience that's not my own. Like I can only speak myself and my own experiences, and thank God I came home, I moved in with my parents. Are there challenges?
Of course. Yeah.
Yes. Like it moving home and going from being wife and mother, Emmy, to Emmy who lives in her parents' house, who is sister and daughter, wife and mother, and I mean not wife, and mother, like trying to figure out that
whole piece.
piece is challenging.
Like an identity, like you don't expect your identity to transition that way. Like you expect it to be linear, and like then it transitions in a different way. Then add to that, you're living in your parents' house, which brings its own set of challenges. Even if you're just like an older adult living in your parents' house, not previously married, not with a child. So like,
100%.
you know.
And it's hard because you grow up a certain way. You grow up in your parents' house, and you always expect, like, okay, like I'm going to move out, whether that's getting married, whether that's, you know, growing up and moving out. And at this point, like, okay, I'm here and I'm trying to, you know, make the most of being here. And I'm blessed, you know, like I have this incredible support system that really, like, you know, I can take a shower and say, you know, here, brother, and you watch Yona so I can take a shower. And that for me is, I really realized it because I was on vacation in Florida a couple months, and everyone was like busy doing their own thing. So I brought Yona into the bathroom and closed the door and like plopped some toys and like took a really fast shower. And I'm like, oh my, like I was like freaking out the whole time. Like, what if I'm in the shower? Like, and I realized in that moment, I'm like, I am so lucky to be able to, you know, say, hey, can you watch Yona so I can take a shower and actually like shower person.
Exactly.
So
I'm extra set of hands for sure. It's like a blessing. And like, it's for sure. I mean, it would come with different challenges if you were on your own for sure. And like probably some challenges you wouldn't have to navigate if you were on your own, but like I like that you see it as like a major blessing. I would agree. You want to say something else about the support team? Like I'm curious if there's something that you did that helped you like have the support team. Did you always have these like great relationships with your family, which is, you know, understandable too, because I feel like people that don't have a support team, like how can they go about getting it when they're in crisis? You know what I mean? Like you maybe have that, like the relationships already there waiting to catch you, whereas other people, they're in crisis and then they're like, no, they didn't have that foundation.
So in regards to my family, thank God, I'm really blessed. I have always been so close to them. Even when I was married, like I lived 5 minutes away. I was here all the time. I have a very, very close relationship with my family. But I will say that the one thing that I really have learned is that on top of my Instagram, which actually helped me in some ways to understand this content more, if you feel like you're lacking in support, people don't know. Like people in the beginning, when it first came like to light that I was divorced, and you know it was it became public knowledge, and it was a story, so like everyone knew about it. I got a lot of support from like, you know, family, friends, and whatever. I'm here for you, it was so nice to hear. But then like the dust settles, and people move on with their lives naturally, and I wouldn't expect anything else. But I will say that I have learned, and it's really something I still work on, is like knowing when to ask for help. And help doesn't even necessarily mean, you know, like I need you to watch Yona. It can just like, I'm lonely and I need to talk to someone right now. And I really worked on that a lot in my relationships with my friends, especially if my friends are married or getting married and I am not. And it's been, you know, everyone's busy with their own lives, and it's hard sometimes to like see everyone moving forward and like you're not, you know, like you're stuck. So reaching out and being like, I need support right now, and like it's okay to say that, and that it doesn't make me any less of a strong person because I'm asking for support. People don't know when you need support, especially for me. I come on my Instagram and I'm like, you know, giving these inspirational talks, and I'm doing them. I've said this before, like when I come on my Instagram and I'm like talking really, really passionately, most of the time I'm like preaching at myself. I'm like, it's good, okay? You're gonna be, and I'm telling other people too, you're gonna be okay, but I'm also telling myself like you're gonna be okay. But when I do that, a lot of times it looks like I'm in a really, really good place. And a lot of the time when I do that, it's more like I'm struggling. I think some of my friends have learned that by now. Like
they'll text you when they see your story, your story storm. They'll be like, Emmi, do you need something now?
Exactly. It's not all the time, you know, like I feel really, really good and I want to share. So it is like, but I will say that learning how to ask for support has been.
Sure. It doesn't make you needy. Like, it's okay to be needy. Like, everyone's like, it doesn't make you needy, but it's also okay to be needy. And that's what humans are. Like, we need people. And I love that. Yeah. So, like, asking for the support, not assuming that people know. And I also love that you touched upon, like, when the dust settles, people will not be reaching out, and that's normal and natural. And I think people have like such a fear around that and such a hard time with that. But like, that's where you need to practice asking for support, reaching out. Like, nobody's a mind reader, and even if they were sitting all day thinking about how you're doing, they still wouldn't know how you're doing unless you tell them.
And I think the people that are close to you in your life, or even people that you can potentially be close to, they do, like, most people have a natural want to help other people.
Correct.
They just sometimes they don't even know what to do or what to say. And like someone came to me a few weeks ago and was telling me that she has a broken engagement, and she was like, I'm afraid for when the dust settles and people stop reaching out. And I'm like, you reach out back. Like, they're showing you that they care. But this path is that you need to show them that you also did, because they don't want to overstep. A lot of times people don't know what to say. Like, they're like, okay, she's not thinking about it. I don't want to bring it up if she's not thinking about it. Or like, I don't want feelings or bring up old trauma or, you know, whatever, step her boundaries if she's proud. So like, you need to do that, like, meet halfway and be like, like, you said XYZ 6 months ago, 2 years ago, you know, I need, like,
I can use that now. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I think that that's really something that.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that point that you touched upon, that when you give, like, people think like, if I take and people are giving to me, they'll get sick of me, or I'm needy, or whatever it is. But really, like, most people, like you said, they want to help. And when you give to somebody, you come to love them. Like, why do you love your child? Because you've given to them, and they don't give you anything. Like, I mean, they give you their deliciousness in return, but they're not really providing for you in return, right? But you love them because you're giving that to them. So the same thing when you're in this like place, when anyone's in this place of like being quote unquote needy, needing others, needing the support, it's really an opportunity for these other people to get close to you and for you to get close to these other people. So like that reframe, I think, can help. You just made me think of that as you're talking about, like, most people really want to give. Yes, because that's what connects us. So I love that. Let's talk about, say it again.
I think like my page, a lot of the time I'm giving a lot of, like, I give a lot of chizuk. And it really establishes, like, I say it all the time, like, that I really feel like my Instagram followers, a lot of them are my friends.
Yeah.
And I genuinely feel that way. Like, I'm not just saying it to be cute, you know, like I'll say something and I'll get, especially from, like, I have a few people who will respond a lot. And I have relationships with them. Like, I know personal things about them. They know personal things about me. And like, we've never even met, but like, through my giving of myself, I'm gaining like a lot of support. Like, really, that was like the one other thing I wanted to say about support, is that my Instagram page has really given me a tremendous amount of support, constantly. Even like with, you know, launching Shivisi and Never Alone, like, really everything really got so much support. It's really incredible. Like, Instagram has this beautiful part to it where we band together and like remind each other, like, through me reminding people they're not alone, I've always said I'm not alone. And I think that that's such an important thing that really helps me. Like, it helps me all the time, you know? It's like really special.
I think I love that you brought that out, because I think people, like, when they go through something that would be like externally shameful, right, like a divorce or trauma or anything like that, like, the immediate reaction for most people, I think, is to isolate and to like become so, like, shame and secrecy live together, right? So the fact that you like went totally against that, like, first you tried to do that, you tried to, like, you know, use Instagram just as like a distraction, but then as soon as you turned it into like a tool for authenticity and to like be yourself, and then you're able to see like immediately how you can gain so much from it. And I know everyone talks about like, the dark side of social media, and I think it's totally valid, but I think there's also this like light side, and it really starts with the person, like, how are you using it, you know? And I totally can like identify with that. Like, I honestly feel connected to the people that are responsive on social media, because like, you're sharing a vulnerable part of yourself, even if it's not every single part of yourself, and they're able to identify with that and connect to you, and then you're able to connect to them. So like, totally, it's like it's a way of having relationships today, for better or worse.
It's a
exactly. Okay, I want to talk about therapy and coaching. We still have a good 15 minutes, I think, right about like the 15-minute mark, like 15 minutes left. So I want to talk about like therapy, coaching, I know that you're like a fan of it, so I want to hear about that because I think it's going to inspire people also to get the help that they need, and also like things that you've learned in therapy and or coaching, if you can, specify for us, that has helped you and will help others.
Okay. So I'll say this. When I was younger, I was in therapy at one point, and it was the embarrassing. I was like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. I was so embarrassed. I was like, no one can know. Like, no one can know that I'm in therapy. Like, I don't want anyone to know. It's so embarrassing. That means something's wrong with me.
Wow.
And when I got divorced, the rabbi, my ex is a Kohen, so we had to go to therapy in order for divorce, especially just because of the nature of everything that happened. It was like so like out of the blue. So the rabbi, all the rabbanim in the Beis Din, they were like, you need to go to therapy in order for us to approve. So that kind of segued me back into the world of therapy. And I ended up seeing that therapist who I went to with my ex. She ended up becoming my therapist.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting.
Yeah. Which happens to be the blessing in the world, because she spoke to him, So when you're going to a therapist, right, you're telling them, like, I'm sitting here talking to you, you don't know me. So like, I could be telling you, like there's his side and her side to every single story, and then the truth, So you're hearing my side of the story, like, okay, like in your head, you're like, okay, there's also his side, which is totally
I'm not saying that, but yeah. Technically.
A therapist, hypothetically, could be thinking that. So it was because she spoke to him. And like she had his side. So like she has the ability when I'm, being like spiraling, so to speak, like I spoke to him, like this is true, or this is not, and she like has that full perspective of everything that's going on. So like it was really, really a blessing. And I really have grown to love therapy. I have an excellent therapist. I think that it is a shidduch. Like it has to be a good match. You're sitting there and you're talking about really, really personal things. And if you don't like the person you're talking to, relate to the person you're talking to, if they're not giving you either feedback or things that will help you to want to keep talking, you're not going to want to keep talking. So I think that like I hate my therapist. I'm like, well, then you're not in the right place. Like, and it's not like, it's just not a good fit, right? Yeah. And like, it's like that with anyone, with friends, you're not meant to be friends.
Correct. Correct.
Just because you're paying someone to listen to you doesn't mean that they're a good match.
Correct.
So
and you don't
really
have like you could dislike therapy because it's difficult, but you don't want to dislike your therapist. You know what I'm saying? Like you could have things you don't like about your therapist, but that doesn't mean you like hate them, or you know what I'm saying? You could hate the therapeutic process, but that still means that you want to talk to that person. If you have to talk to anyone, you chose that one,
Exactly. Like therapy is not easy. I don't think anyone is gonna.
I think Instagram makes it very easy. Like I think so many of the questions I get as like, the founder of Clarity and as a therapist is like, it's so hard and like it shouldn't be this hard, or like I can't open up, or this or that, like issues within the therapeutic process. People just assume that it's like easy because therapy became so like trendy. And it should just be like, it's easy, like, anything else would be, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that like one of the things that scares people away is that they go to therapy and it's not easy, and they're like, whoa.
Yeah.
No. People run from things that are hard, and all of a sudden it's like the thing, right? Everyone's going to therapy. Oh, and it's like, whoa, no. Like this is not
right.
This is not
right. I think they're wrong. Like they think they found the wrong therapist, or they're doing it wrong, or if it's not for them. Like, like
I don't do therapy, right? That's so like people be like, I don't do therapy. I'm like, okay. Like,
exactly.
It's not easy. Any sort of working on yourself is not easy. When you're working on yourself and you have someone else that's there, that's holding you accountable, and or just watching you, or helping you through it. It's not easy. But since when is the easy thing the right thing?
Correct. Correct. Yeah, totally.
So I really I've gained a tremendous amount in therapy. I've grown so much. I also love, I really believe that fitness is a form of therapy.
Yeah.
And that for me has also been a huge growth. I mean, I always worked out. Like I used to do the elliptical and the treadmill, whatever. But then shortly after I got divorced, I joined this gym in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And
I saw it on your stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I really have grown so much from going there.
Mm-hmm.
I really learned how to channel emotion into it. Like there'll be times that I'll be boxing, for example, and I'll finish and I'll literally be crying. So like amazing that there's a positive outlet that I really view as a form of therapy.
Wow.
So like I'm a huge believer in fitness for mental health. Like I just think it's such an important, and on top of just the natural body reaction
Sure.
to working out, there's also the emotional component of it where you either have an option to deal with things that you're, you know, going through and like, or totally block them out, totally ignore it and focus solely on the task at hand, which is a really important skill. You know, it's not to forget everything that's going on, but sometimes you need that. Like sometimes
you need to have
like
contain it. Yeah.
So
Totally. Yeah.
So
I love that you brought that up. Because I'm so like, people assume that like if you're a therapist or if your industry is the therapy world, that like you believe in therapy as like the only solution. And I'm so like, that's like an anti-belief of mine. Like I'm such a believer in like everything is part of your healing process. Therapy is like one tiny piece of it, a piece that can have a big impact, make a big impact, but it's not the only piece.
Right.
It's not the be all and end all. And I think fitness and spirituality, which obviously I don't have to convince living in Muna of, but like all these pieces, you know, like it's all part of it's what you put into your body, the way you move your body, you know, and your relationships, and therapy is a relationship. So like, that's kind of the way to frame it, I think. So I love that you shared that. Anything that any like practical or even less practical, but things that like you've gained in therapy that you feel like you can give over that would help other people? Any tips or practical things that, or not so practical? Because I know practical can be like a pressure. Like therapy is not always like practical. You know, it depends who you see and what your therapeutic process is like, but it's not always like, you know, do this and this and this.
Yeah. I'll say one thing that my therapist says to me often is to look at the facts and look at your emotions and see if they make sense. Like a lot of times I'll get so overwhelmed with everything. I'll feel so overwhelmed, and then everything's overwhelming. So to break down everything that's happening, look at this one specific thing. Is this actually overwhelming, or are you just really overwhelmed so this seems overwhelming? And really, like I really apply it to so many things, because is this situation really so bad, or is it just that everything seems so hard right now that this is also so hard? And when you break down what exactly is overwhelming, which situations is not that you can't, you know, feel overwhelmed, right, or you can't feel like everything crumbling down, because that's a very valid feeling, and anything you're feeling is always valid. Like your feelings can't possibly be invalid because they're your feelings, and just by virtue of the fact that they're your feelings, they are valid. But to look at the actual facts and be like, okay, does this make sense? Like, let me take away the overwhelm from this situation and just let it be that that's overwhelming, and that this is not necessarily overwhelming, and that makes dealing with this one thing easier. So like, I'm making a cup of coffee and I'm making eggs, right? And like, making eggs is very hard, but making coffee is not actually so hard, right? So I'm putting I have more mental energy to deal with what's actually hard, because I'm removing the overwhelm from the actual making.
Love that. Yeah, that's like a complicated thing, but you did justice in explaining it. I appreciate that. I love that. It's not just like breaking down like facts and matching your emotions. It's like really, it's like looking at each situation and deciphering like what am I putting onto this that doesn't have to be there, right? And like really getting like inquiring, basically. It's inquiry.
And sometimes it can be that everything is overwhelming, and that's you.
Yeah.
You know, do my facts and emotions make sense? And if great, and if they don't, also great. Right. But just to know for myself, this is not actually so overwhelming. I'm allowed to feel overwhelmed, but this is not necessarily as overwhelming as I am making it.
Right. Right. I love that. That's a great takeaway. Anything that I guess like we're almost wrapping up. Yeah, we have another 10 to 15 minutes, 10 minutes. But I want to know about like things that you do daily that like transformed your life and like, you know, in this situation, even like before the situation. It doesn't have to be like everything is like pinned on this like traumatic divorce. But I think that, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, you didn't just become like who you are from the divorce. I think that you've probably been someone that was, you know, inclined towards healing and health prior to this. And yeah, I want to like make space for that too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will say it's actually interesting. I was thinking about it the other day that I found myself in divorce. Not that I didn't know who I was before, but that I found divorce. Not that divorce is my identity, because it's not. I try very hard to not let it become my identity. And it's hard with my Instagram because I'm so public about being a single mom and being divorced.
Right.
I try to make it that being a single mom is not who I am. Right. I am a person who is a single mom, but I am not a single mom exclusively. Like there is an Emmi outside of my divorce. It was an Emmi before, and you know, and I'm that. What about Emir Tashem when I'm not, you know, a single mom anymore? I don't want that. Who am I now?
Correct.
Like who am I? My divorce. So
that's that. I love that. I love how you see that. That's how like we tell everyone to see any of their struggles. Like you are not anxiety. You're a human being that has anxiety. You're not OCD. You know, like, people love saying like I'm OCD. I'm OCD. Right. You're not OCD. You are a human being that might have OCD tendencies or have diagnosis of OCD. But yeah, I love that because like you don't want to get stuck in these identities because it makes it harder, even like on a spiritual sense, to like move out of that identity if you want to, which it sounds like you do. And then if you see yourself like that, then it's really hard to like make that shift on so many different levels.
Yeah. So percent. I will say like the few things that have really helped me. One thing that I read long before I was divorced or even married, like a long time ago. I love the book Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. Are you from?
I've definitely read it like years ago.
Yeah. So that in that book, there is, it talks about at one point, Morrie has ALS. He's dying, and Mitch was a student of his, and he went to ALS and was talking to him and basically wrote down a lot about him and what he was saying in his life lessons. And one thing he said, which really has stuck with me since I read it, is he said that he asked him like, how do you deal with like knowing that you're dying, or how do you pain? And he said that with any emotion, the best way to heal is to tell yourself, okay, like this is an emotion. So for example, I'm anxiety, right? I allow myself to feel that anxiety. I feel the anxiety. I give myself that space, and then I acknowledge, okay, like I'm feeling anxiety, and then I step away from it. That was anxiety. I'm not going to feel that anymore. Like I'm not going to let myself be overcome by my anxiety. So, you know, that was a huge thing for me. And it's through everything. I'll probably the rest of my life. And with anything, you know, this is depression. This is fear. This is joy. This is anything. I'm feeling this. Okay, this is, you know, anxiety. This is depression. This is joy. And I'm allowing myself to feel it for whatever time I need to feel it. And then I'm stepping, I mean, I don't necessarily want to step away from joy, but I'm stepping away from that and saying, okay, I gave myself the space to feel that. And now I'm so that it doesn't consume me. And that really took me through my entire divorce process, 100%. Because even now, you know, all the time, where it feels like everything's caving in, you know, where like, hey, like I can't, like Yona's getting older, not married, and this and that and this and that, and like how do I move forward from this, and how do I what if this and what if then? It's like, okay, like right now you're feeling this and that's fine, but I'm not gonna let it take me over every single day. Like I'm not gonna let myself not feel anything else and be so overwhelmed by it that I can't
I love that. It's like watching, like you feel it, and then like you step away instead of like you putting that away. You as yourself step away, and you kind of like watch it. Similar to like what I'm hearing, and you tell me if I'm wrong or right. Is like almost like mindfulness and meditation, but it's like when you watch your thoughts. So like instead of watching your thoughts, you're kind of like you know, experiencing it, so you know what it feels like, and then you're like, okay, now the rest of me can step away from this experience and know that it's like, you know, it's not me, it's not consuming me.
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
it's like, instead of pushing it down, I'm letting it out, you know? And down does not make them go away. Letting them out does. That doesn't mean that it's not going to come back, but I'm not shoving it down and giving myself stress ulcers or whatever. So,
Yeah.
So that was definitely one thing. Another thing to say is that when I got divorced, I was talking to my aunt, who also is divorced, and she gave me the best piece of advice I think I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
She said to take it 1 second at a time, until at a time, until it becomes 1 hour at a time, until it becomes a day at a time, and then all of a sudden you're gonna see a month will have passed or 2 months will have passed. Like, don't what's coming and what's even if that means the next minute from now. If you go 1 minute from now, then don't focus on 1 minute from now. Focus on, I can get through 10 seconds. 10 seconds, not so long. I can count down from 10 and get down to 10 seconds. I can count down from 60 and get through 1 minute. 1 minute at a time, 1 day at a time. And like, that was really what I got through the entire first few months, because it was so much. Like, it was just such an overwhelming time. So like, I was traumatized. I was recovering from surgery because I had a C-section. Like, there was so much, and I just took it 1 second at a time.
Yeah.
A week had passed, 2 weeks had passed, a month had passed, and now like, I look at it, okay, like, I did that.
Yeah.
Like, I got, and like, that's crazy to me, because in those moments I was like, I'm never getting through this.
Right.
Like, there's no way I'm ever coming out of this. Like, how could I ever feel happy? How could I ever move past this overwhelming, overbearing feeling of like, that my world is caving in? But 1 minute at a time, 1 day at a time, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, like, I did that. I have to. And anytime I ever feel like, you know, I can't get through this next hour, you know, something is happening that's overwhelming me. Okay, so don't do the next hour, get through the next 5 minutes, and then get that following 5 minutes. And that's really when growth happens. Like, when going into those hard times and letting those feelings happen to you,
Like,
and
move through you. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like, this is 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and I'm growing through these experiences because I'm allowing myself I'm giving myself the space to acknowledge I can't get through the next hour. I can't. But then all of a sudden I did. How did I get through this past hour? Because I gave myself 1 minute, and then another minute, and like, that changed me. And like, I say all the time, people ask me like, how do I get through the day? How do you get through the day? Don't get through the day. Who says you have to get through the day? Who told you have to get through this day? Don't get through the next 5 minutes. And if that seems okay, go through 1 minute.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Passed.
I love it. I love that. I love how you broke that down, and I think that is brilliant advice. And yeah, like people say, like, take it 1 step at a time, but this is a lot more, less cliche and more practical, like really, really to break things down. And like, it reminds me of something that I once was saying, how like, we can never, it's very hard for us to see ourselves out of pain. Like, it's when you're in a moment of pain, you cannot imagine yourself feeling differently. You have to kind of not try to imagine it, because you can't psyche yourself out of that spiral. You need to just do the next right thing in the next minute and the next 5 minutes, and ultimately you get out of that pain, you know? So I love that you brought that up. Okay, awesome. Anything else that you wanted to share on that, like on the takeaways, or like things that you do? I know you shared about the putting the feelings aside, get through the next minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah.
There's a concept in fitness that's last set, best set. So like, when it's the hardest, that's when your body starts to change.
Transform. Yeah.
When you first start doing jumping jacks, you're not going to be winded for the first, and then it starts getting harder. And as it gets harder, your body starts working. So the last last 10 jumping jacks, the last 5 push-ups, the last 10 minutes on the treadmill, whatever it is, that's the best time. That's when the growth is happening.
Yeah.
And I have learned also to apply that to my life of those times when it's easy, I'm not necessarily growing. So the easy times are not the times that are shaping me as a person. They're not the times that I mean, maybe sometimes they are, but those are not the times when I'm discovering myself or working on myself or whatever. Those hard moments, those are the ones that shape you, and those times that change you. And equal to when, you're doing an ab exercise and it burns and you're like, okay, I need to stop. A lot of times I'll be in those moments where it's so hard and I'm working out and I'm like, I'm gonna die. I can get through 15 seconds of this ab workout so that I get more toned or whatever. I can do this in my life too. This is so calming and so overbearing. I can get through 15 seconds of this struggle that I'm dealing with in my life so that I'm growing as a person, so that I'm changing as a person, so that I'm helping myself, so that I'm learning something from this. I'm doing something that's positive. Even if it's hard, I'm growing from it.
Yeah.
And that's the hard times are when you grow.
Yeah.
And that, like, for me, and I think so many people, we naturally want what's easy. We mentioned this before.
Yeah.
We naturally go towards what's easy, but what's easy is not necessarily what's best for us. It might give us temporary relief, but long term, what's hard for the most part
is what builds muscle.
Like,
yeah,
exactly. So like,
I love that. What's the saying in fitness? Last set, best set. Best set, last set, best set. I like that. I really like that. That's amazing. Yeah, and totally.
Sometimes I'll be overwhelmed or something will be going on. I'll be like, okay, last set, best set. Like, it's not into this at all, but last set, best set. Like, okay, this is hard right now.
Totally.
Now I won't be doing crunches anymore, and I'll be fine.
Exactly.
Might be a little sore, but I'll be fine.
Exactly. It reminds me of something I once said, like, when we have a good day, when we wake up sore one day from a workout that we did the day before, we're so proud of ourselves. Like, we feel so good that we have that pain, right? Yet when we have emotional pain because we're growing, we're not proud of that pain, but we should be, right? Like that emotional pain, that soreness that you feel is a sign that you are growing. Yeah. And it's something to be proud of, right? Like, I love when I feel sore. Like, after working out, I was like, I actually worked out yesterday.
Yeah, it's the best feeling.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Amazing. Anything else you want to share before we wrap? You're amazing, Emmi. Like, you're so dynamic. I could sit here and talk to you forever.
Yeah.
And like, you have so much to share, and like, you break things down like really, really impressively. So yeah, thank you for that. But anything else? Any like last thoughts that you're like, this is on my head, or that you want to think of now?
I said one time on my Instagram, it came to me out of nowhere. And it really I said it and I was like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I said, I'm trying to remember exactly how I said it. I don't remember what I was talking about, but I was something about how, divorce and dating and how, like, I have this baggage, and like, what if someone doesn't want me because of my baggage? And I said that everybody has baggage. What defines is how you choose to carry it. And when I said that, I was like, whoa, like, I literally stopped Q&A. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Really, it's really true that everybody is going through something, and that's where the never bracelets come in. That and everyone's going through something, and everybody is struggling, and everybody is working through something, big or small, on any day-to-day basis. Someone looks like they're fine, they're probably not. No one's life is perfect. Everyone is carrying baggage. Some people show it better, some people don't. But what defines you and what makes you a better person is how you choose to carry that baggage. Are you going to let it overwhelm your life? Are you going to let it define you? Are you going to let it, break you down and stop the ability to go through whatever day-to-day tasks come your way? And that's fine. Like, if you need a day to sit in bed and cover your head with your blanket, that's fine. But long term, what defines you is how you carry it. And like, that basically describes...
You put your own mind.
Yeah, I did. I really did. I was like, where did that somewhere?
Emmy's becoming a philosopher. No, but that's what living authentically is like, you know, like you get these like sparks of inspiration that are really true. Like you're like, you know, your subconscious is brilliant, and when you like tap into it and you like pretend your defenses, you end up coming up with these things that really are meaningful. Like you like you primed yourself for that kind of insight because you live it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
When I go on my talks on my Instagram, they never end where I thought they were gonna end, you know?
Yeah, they
And
always like go somewhere else.
I'll like black out. Not really, but like I'll black out in a sense and just like it just flows.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll read back afterwards, I'll be like, that's not where I was going with this, but okay. It's great. I love it. And I love like where my page has gone and
Yeah.
the change that I see happening
Mm-hmm.
in myself, others, and like I get messages from people constantly like thanking me for
Mm-hmm.
inspiring whatever, and like every time I get a message, I'm like in tears. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
not, because it's never like I don't look at myself that way, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like my own public diary, and people come over to me in the streets and thank
Wow.
me. Like the woman came over to me and she literally started crying, and I started
Yeah.
crying because I'm like like thank you, like don't thank me, thank you, you know, like
Yeah.
it's really like it's a space. Like I don't look
Yeah.
at it as a me thing, it's an us thing.
Yeah. I think that comes through. I think that's what makes you stand out from the rest.
Thank
Really, really beautiful. Wow. Thanks a million, Emmy, for sharing this. Like I learned so much just from talking to you, and like I'm in this space and I still like felt like there were so many things that you shared that were amazing practical takeaways, and like I'm excited for like people that are gonna listen to this, over people from your account, people from our accounts. This was amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
thanks
Emmy.
for reaching out. So nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have
Bye.
a good one. Bye bye.